You're still not taking full responsibility. I want to know from you, did you shoot that man and that security guard?
Robert Phillips shot the first 2 to 3 shots, sir. I ducked, I drew down, I ducked, I drew my weapon, and when I came back up, 2 security officers were firing at me. I fired 2 to 3 shots back in the vicinity of the security officers. But Mr. Paul Bryant and Mr. Johnny Jenkins were already on the ground hit. Mr. Jenkins fired at me from the ground, and Mr. Mark Wilson fired at me from the corner. I had a gun that night. I fired those shots, and I'm not trying to absolve myself. I participated in this crime. So I participated in this crime. I fired a weapon that night, but the evidence that we're talking about, that my attorneys are talking about, was never presented to a jury, sir. I'm not saying that I'm actually innocent of this crime, sir. But what I am saying is that I'm factually innocent of this crime, meaning that there is evidence, witnesses, police reports, and lab reports which indicate that Robert Phillips did fire that gun that night that were not presented to a jury, sir.
And here we are in Angola prison, Louisiana, watching the commutation hearing of a man who committed this crime back in March 14th, 1994. 3 decades later, he is up in front of the Louisiana Parole and Commutation Board, asking them not for parole because he has a life sentence, but asking them to recommend to the governor to recommend that they commute his sentence, to give him a chance at parole. Now, this hearing, it is interesting because he is claiming his innocence in some ways, as we just saw in that 60-minute interview. And we are going to hear from the assistant district attorney who is going to touch on that as well. It is very rare for a commutation board to recommend to the governor when someone is not admitting complete guilt. But let's see how this plays out.
You're seeking a commutation of your sentence. You were sentenced in the First Judicial District, Caddo Parish, in July 1995. You received a life sentence for a second-degree murder conviction and 28.5-year sentence for attempted second-degree murder. Is that information correct, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Before we get started, Mr. Boult, we'd like for you to tell us a little bit about why are you in jail? Why are you seeking a commutation of sentence, and why do you believe you are deserving of such?
Well, first of all, I would like to offer my deepest and sincerest apologies to the family of Mr. Paul Bryant. And my road to prison began at 14 years of age, ma'am. I joined one of the most violent, largest gangs in the nation at the time. And for a decade thereafter, I traveled the country distributing drugs and engaged in a culture of violence that shattered the peace and evoked fear in our communities. It all came to an end on March 13th, 1994 in Shreveport, Louisiana at the Clear Horizon apartment complex, wherein I was engaged in an argument that ultimately led to a fight. That fight led to multiple shootings. That shooting left Mr. Paul Bryant deceased, Mr. Johnny Jenkins wounded, and I myself shot, partially paralyzed, and fighting for my own life in intensive care unit at the Louisiana Medical University Hospital in Shreveport. 3 days later, I was discharged from the hospital with my entire abdomen lined with staples and confined to a wheelchair. And when I arrived at the prison, I was greeted by what I now describe as a wicked sense of admiration by dozens of gang members. And for the first time, the very first time in my life, after 10 years of gangbanging, I realized that something was seriously wrong with the life I had chosen. I was subsequently found guilty by a 10-2 jury verdict of second-degree murder and second-degree attempted murder, and sent to prison for the remainder of my natural life. And that is basically where my journey to redeem myself, to make amends, to atone for the trauma and pain I caused in the past began. But in all honesty, that road was not easy. That quest for redemption was not an easy journey. I faced many battles, emotional battles. I faced battles with forgiving myself. I faced physical battles. But over space and time, I began to find my footing, so to say, academically, educationally, legally. But I still knew that something was missing in my life. And it took a while, but I turned to God. And God began to show me things. My life began to change. I embraced God. And one of the things that God showed me was that I had a spiritual gift. And that spiritual gift is the innate ability to encourage and inspire people, even in a hopeless environment. I believe that I have a say with the young people, the younger generation. I have their ear. And as a result, I dedicated my life to mentoring and assisting. I'm a gang interventionist. I'm a gang preventionist. And that life led me to the Bible college, where I ultimately attained my degree. After obtaining my degree, I formulated a ministry called Ground Zero Ministries. That ministry is designed to assist and support inmates with emotional problems, spiritual problems, drug addictions, and things of that nature. And in doing those things, I realized that I could represent people just like I represented that gang. And I began to realize that, you know, with God at the head of your life, that all things are possible. Nothing is possible when God leads the charge. So today, I asked the board to grant me clemency, not for the sole sake of just being free, man, not for the sole sake of being free, but to allow me to be on that, to keep going down the road to redemption, to redeem myself, to make amends, you know, to strike a balance, to say, there are a lot of people dependent on me right now. In fact, the entire prison population right now is watching and seeing what's going to happen with me because of the things that I've done with them in the context of the prison. So I say that today I am redeemed. I will continue on that road to redemption. And if the board sees fit, I pray that you grant me clemency today so I can be a beacon of light in the community, so I can help stop some of the killings and violence that our communities are suffering from. I truly believe that I can be an antidote, that I have an authentic voice with young people, and I'm fearless. I am absolutely fearless. I have no fear to go into those communities that many people, and rightfully so, are afraid to go into. But I am fearless, and I will be doing that if you grant me clemency today. So today, I humbly pray and ask that you grant me clemency for those reasons. Thank you.
All right, you've given that a lot of thought, haven't you?
Yes, ma'am.
Gordon, what can you tell us about Mr. Boult?
Well, it's kind of hard to talk behind you, but you know, Anthony's been here 30 years. He is an inmate leader amongst his peers. He's very respected. You know, he went through he has educated himself. He did get out of a gang, which was, you know, it's a bold step to denounce a gang once you're a gang member. That's a very bold step. Ward Ambo is going to kind of go through all the programs that he has completed since he's been here. But again, he is a leader in the right way. He is very respected by his peers.
Anthony Boult completed his GED. He also has an associate and a BA in Christian ministry. He participated in Malachi Dad's anger management, Inside Out Dad, and 100-hour pre-release. He's also a paralegal. He also participated in paralegal training, Teal Walker training, and he facilitates and mentors to the faith-based population here at Louisiana State Penitentiary. Mr. Boult has been a proven leader to the inmate population by mentoring to those that come in and let them know to get on the right foot while they're here so that they can one day be able to present their case before y'all. So with that being said, I think Mr. Boult has really been an inspiration here to the inmate population at Angola and deserve a second chance.
Okay, thank you. All right, let's hear from the folks who are here in support. First, the parole project, Mr. Myers.
Good morning, Kerry Myers with Louisiana Parole Project. We're here to let the board know that Mr. Boult is a client of Parole Project. Should this board grant his clemency today, Parole Project is prepared to assist Mr. Boult through his transition with the full complement of our programming and services. 30 years, obviously, 30 plus years is a significant amount of time served. And we know that Mr. Boult will need mentoring and case management that have changed over the last 30 plus years, technology, social norms, financial management, and the things that we can assist Mr. Boult with through his transition based on his record, his education, his service to the population. We'd ask this board to grant his recommendation today.
Thank you. Here with us, we have Mr. Boult's brother, Mr. Lee. Would you step up to the podium, please? How do you pronounce your first name?
Adrian.
Adrian, okay. Go ahead, sir.
Good morning. My name is Adrian Lee. I am the younger brother of Anthony Boult. I have something I always try to go by. And that is I exercise the 3 Ds. Be heard, be brief, and gone. I have known Anthony my whole life. And I've witnessed the beauty of change in him. I've witnessed his growth. I've witnessed all that he's accomplished. And I can honestly say he deserves no chance. He's been rehabilitated. Growing up, he was always that person that was able to motivate other people. He was always that person that stood up to a group. He was always that person that was ready to teach and ready to help. After my father lost his job and we went through a terrible divorce, things took a turn. Anthony turned to the streets. For a period of time, he went down that road. You know, but I can say now, over the past 30 years, he's transformed his life. He's the older brother. He's way smarter than me, as you see what he said there. You know, it's one of those things that he was always able to put a smile on your face or give you a life lesson. He's a part of me. I traveled down this long road many years from Shreveport and Angola to visit him. And it's always good to visit with him. It's always sad when you leave because you feel like a part of him to be there. So around about 2014, one of the proudest accomplishments that we worked together on was starting the United Family Ministry, where we were able to help other people in the same situation, children who had loved ones, parents in Angola, and were unable to visit their parents. So what we did, we had the United Family Ministry, which Anthony founded, and me and my Uncle Alan were the supporters in getting everything rolling. And we would transport children from Northwest Louisiana to Angola for free to visit their parents that were incarcerated, loved ones that were incarcerated. And it was all Anthony's idea. It was all Anthony's planning, putting it together. We helped him facilitate. You know, and at the time, I couldn't believe it. You know what I mean? He was doing such a great thing, things that people don't normally think about doing. And then one day he told me, I'm going to write a book. I said, you're going to write a book? He said, and the book is called The Beauty of Change, A Father and Son's Journey to Redemption. If you hadn't read it, it's a great read. And I worked alongside him on that book. And it really tells you everything. But in closing, I support him wholeheartedly for years. I always will support him. Anything I can do to support him, I will do. I love him. His Uncle Adam, his Aunt Bebe, his family, we all love him and support him. We do everything we can for him. And I just hope and pray that you all give him another chance.
Thank you. And we also have Alvin here.
Good morning. He's just about put everything that I would say that I have written, he has spoken of it. But nevertheless, I'm gonna utilize my 3 minutes to go ahead and give you the clerical aspect of it. My name is Alvin Lee. I'm resident of Shreveport, Louisiana. I'm a Christian, a registered voter, a law-abiding citizen. I've been asked to appear before this board to speak on behalf of my nephew and inmate, Anthony Norman Boult, to aid him in his efforts to obtain clemency and become eligible for parole hearings. I am aware of events in Anthony's past as a youth and as a young adult. I had occasion to speak with him regarding the gang lifestyle he had chosen, the probability of incarceration, death, or destruction of his life as we had known it. My concerns did not register positively with him during those conversations, and my nephew is now approaching 30 years as an inmate of the Angola State Prison. Anthony's life prison sentence has not been uneventful for his family that continues to support him and endure his sentence with him. As his family, we have become bound to him and have occasionally felt spiritually imprisoned with him. However, I am a strong believer that time can and will bring about the change in a person's life, not only a physical change, but mentally as well. As a family member who makes periodic visits to see Anthony, I readily recognize those physical and mental changes. Anthony delights us when we visit. He delights in informing us of his involvements and achievements. Among them is his enrollment in the seminary school, in which he graduated and received a bachelor's degree. Anthony talks about his love for the study of law in the prison library, being able to assist fellow inmates in understanding their rights under the law, and being able to advise fellow inmates on resources that may be available to them, and assisting them with the preparation of writs for seeking appeals. He has written and published a book titled The Beauty of Change. Anthony is also the founder and organizer of a nonprofit organization called United Family Ministries. This nonprofit organization was established by Anthony after hearing from other inmates from Northwest Louisiana who felt abandoned by family or only heard from them occasionally by phone or an occasional letter. Some inmates indicated that they had not had any physical contact with their family for years. Anthony organized United Family Ministries with the primary function of facilitating transportation to and from Angola State Prison at no charge to its patrons. With the help of his younger brother and myself, the organization became a reality. Monthly van service began in 2012 and continued until 2019, taking patrons to and from Angola State Prison and allowing friends and family to see their loved ones. Some had not seen loved ones in years. By all indication, Anthony has been an inspiration to all who have had an opportunity to get to know him, on the inside of the prison and outside of it. He now holds tight to his religious faith and believes he can do all things through Christ that strengthens him. At this moment, I am recalling the title of his published book, The Beauty of Change, where I am allowed to reflect on his past and our interactions. When I saw a rebellious teen and a defiant young man. However, the day I stand before you, after nearly 30 years of watching Anthony throughout his incarceration, I'm willing and able to say he now possesses and has mastered the beauty of change. It is my hopes and my prayer that you would consider his request for clemency and allow him to participate in the Louisiana State pardoning and parole process. Thank you for your time and your consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Lloyd. All right, could we, Mr. Como, we'd like to hear your presentation.
Yes, ma'am. I think we do have one more speaker here at Angola to speak on his behalf, Mr. Tyrone Glover.
Yeah, I don't have him as listed as speaking, but it's my understanding he's representing Congressman Higgins.
Yes,
Mr. Glover,
ma'am.
okay, go ahead, sir. We'd like to hear your brief statements.
Yes, ma'am, and very brief. Time has been well spent. First, giving honor to God, this honorable board, warden and staff, and Minister Anthony. He's been sent to the Department of Correction to be corrected. He sits at the round table with us, and those group of men, they really calm the prison down. So I stand here on behalf of the round table and our honorable Clay Higgins, Congressman. And if you give Anthony a second chance, I told him his time isn't up, because I will hold him to that, and I will take him into communities where I go, and will continue to help to stop these young people from committing these crimes and coming to prison. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right, Mr. Como.
Yes, ma'am. I met Anthony Boult while in the process of filing his post-conviction relief application for his non-unanimous jury verdict. In my time getting to know him, he's been an amazing example of resilience, a demonstrated community leader, and a selfless advocate for others. For starters, Anthony has a stellar conduct record. In the last 15 years, he's only had 4 write-ups. And as Warden Vanoy has stated, he's built up a lot of trust in the prison here. Further, his Tiger score indicates an extremely low risk of recidivism. And this record's backed up by the amount of rehabilitative and educational programming Anthony has taken advantage of. He's completed 100 hours of pre-release, Inside Out Dad program, Finding Higher Ground, anger management training, and more. And he spent much of his time in incarceration doing faith-based practice and education. Anthony attended the New Orleans Baptist Theological Seminary and spent 4 years educating himself on how to be a minister who could be of service to others. Anthony says that this is his spiritual calling to provide compassionate support for his fellow man, and it's really hard to argue with him. In the time he's been incarcerated, he's helped countless individuals go through some of the hardest time of their lives. The prisons recognize Anthony's kindness and entrusts him with the job of delivering death messages, in which he delivers news to other incarcerated individuals that someone they love has passed away. This is obviously an emotionally fraught and difficult moment, and Anthony meets it by giving comfort, aid, and spiritual support to a grieving person. Anthony's always looking for ways to help others. As you've heard in talking to other incarcerated men, Anthony realized that many men were unable to see their family and loved ones because the travel was impossible for them. And Anthony took the initiative and created United Family Ministries, a service that would transport family to see their loved ones in prison free of charge. He describes this endeavor in joyful terms, and seeing the smiles of children who were given the opportunity to visit their fathers is still a memory that fills him with pride. And this work earned Anthony a humanitarian award from the Episcopal Church of Transfiguration. Nowadays, he puts his theology degree into practice by providing spiritual and emotional counsel wherever the need arises. Anthony has started Ground Zero Ministries. This ministry work aims to meet people where they are, whether that be out in the yard or in the dorm. Make sure people have someone that can provide counseling to them at any time. And oftentimes this means that being there for those that are at rock bottom and helping them find the strength to move forward. As part of his ministry, Anthony works to make sure that people don't fall into the same trappings that he once did, and both preventing people being affiliated with gangs and helping those who already are escape that life. Anthony is also a natural born leader. He works as a substitute counsel where he helps provide legal counsel to other incarcerated individuals. In this role, Anthony uses his counseling skills as well as his legal education in order to be an advocate for those who need it the most. He's also the co-chairman and legal director for the 10-2 Committee for Equal Justice, where his leadership has led those involved with both state and national legislatures to listen in. I've had the privilege of attending meetings in which Anthony spoke to a full room of other incarcerated individuals, and I could see how he inspired hope and encouragement to everyone in the audience. If this board were to commute Anthony's sentence and eventually grant him parole, Anthony has a reentry plan that includes the Louisiana Parole Project and will be part of their comprehensive reentry program. He's going to be provided with essential reentry services, including courses that will help ease him back into society. In the long term, Anthony has secured employment with Rich Family Ministries. It's a nonprofit dedicated to changing lives and laws by fostering love. At Rich Family Ministries, Anthony's going to be able to provide, continue his ministry training and provide counseling and advocacy work in an environment that gives him financial and community stability. In conclusion, Anthony Boult has made extraordinary use of his 3 decades of incarceration. He's used every moment to better himself and to build community, as you can see by the people that braved really bad weather to get here to be in support of him and in Baton Rouge. And he enriches the lives of as many people as possible. He plans to continue to do so in larger society if this board sees fit, and we pray that this board does. I'm happy to answer any questions the board may have. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't see any particular questions. At this time, we'll hear from the opposition from the DA's office. Ms. Fitzgerald.
Good morning. I'm Leanne Fitzgerald. I'm the Director of Victim Assistance for the Caddo Parish DA's office. I'm on today to oppose. This was a killing of a human being and an attempted murder of another human being, and we believe that the life sentence was appropriate. But I'm also a little perplexed. It seems like we're putting the cart before the horse here, because I haven't heard anything about Mr. Boult's filings and his continued PCR applications. I'm not sure if the board is aware that he is still asserting innocence in his appeals. I'm holding here the latest round of his appeals that were filed in October. Let's see. Well, it was originally filed in our district court in December of 2022, and our judge, Ramona Emanuel, denied this application in November of 24, just this past November. And Mr. Boult's camp took a writ to our Second Circuit, which was denied on March the 6th of 2025, which was just a few weeks ago. So technically, he is still within his time frame if he's going to appeal that decision to the Louisiana Supreme Court, which he has done in the past, appealed them all the way to the Louisiana Supreme Court. So I believe April 5th would be when his time limitations are up on that. So I really don't even understand. I don't know if the board is aware of this or not, but I really don't see how we could make a decision until we see if or where he's going to go before April the 5th. I'm confused, because if you read his clemency investigation, he makes statements like, let's see, sorry, I have a lot of notes here. He basically admits that he had a gun and that he fired it into the air. And that was what he said on June 1st, 23, for his pre-clemency investigation. I drew my weapon and fired several shots into the air. And then he said, I take full responsibility for my actions that day. I see now that I caused much destruction in my community. But if you read directly from the filings of Ms. Navalance, this was on January 27th of 2025. She says Anthony Boult is in prison for a murder, an attempted murder he did not commit. She also states that when police got to the scene just 2 or 3 minutes after the shooting, there was no gun on or near Mr. Boult, and none was found anywhere on the scene. So, is he remorseful and he's asking for clemency because he's remorseful and he's accepted responsibility, or is he in prison for a crime that he did not commit? That's the problem that I have reconciling all of that. And I don't think it's appropriate to even make a decision right now unless it's a flat out denial, because as I said, he's still asserting actual claims of innocence in his appeals. So that's my request to the board, to deny or at least postpone. Thank you.
The case has been assigned to Mr. Freeman. So Mr. Boult, would you answer any questions Mr. Freeman has?
I got the same question the DA got. I mean, I read this thing up and down and, you're still not taking full responsibility. I want to know from you, did you shoot that man and that security guard?
The events that took place that night, sir, wherein me and Mr. Paul Bryant had a physical altercation. Just as I wrote in the petition, I didn't testify in my trial, sir. So the things and facts that's presented in the petition are filed by attorneys. But on that night, me and Mr. Paul Bryant had a physical altercation. And Robert Phillips, just as I stated in my clemency petition, sir, fired the first 2 to 3 shots after me and Mr. Paul Bryant was broken up. One security officer grabbed me and it evoked my friends who were gang members at the time to start shooting. Robert Phillips shot the first 2 to 3 shots, sir. I ducked, I drew my weapon, and when I came back up, 2 security officers were firing at me. I fired 2 to 3 shots back in the vicinity of the security officers. But Mr. Paul Bryant and Mr. Johnny Jenkins were already on the ground hit. Mr. Jenkins fired at me from the ground, and Mr. Mark Wilson fired at me from the corner. I had a gun that night. I fired those shots, and I'm not trying to absolve myself. I participated in this crime. I am remorseful with this crime. I'm sorry that Mr. Bryant lost his life. The only reason we were around that side of the complex was because we heard a little girl screaming, sir. When we went around the building, that little girl was screaming because there was a domestic dispute between Mr. Bryant and his wife. Mr. Bryant became enraged, and he and I and some of the other members in the crowd got into a verbal altercation that led to a physical altercation between me and him. So I participated in this crime. I fired a weapon that night, but the evidence that we're talking about, that my attorneys are talking about, was never presented to a jury, sir. I'm not saying that I'm actually innocent of this crime, sir. But what I am saying is that I'm factually innocent of this crime, meaning that there is evidence, witnesses, police reports, and lab reports which indicate that Robert Phillips did fire that gun that night that were not presented to a jury, sir. And that is all I'm saying. I did not testify. So the things that said in these petitions did not come directly from me. That petition is the first time that I've ever spoke about this matter because my attorney, Mr. Alan Golden, advised me erroneously not to testify. I begged him to allow me to testify. I was young at the time, and I did not know that I had the right to testify. I went with his position, and I did not testify. And it cost me, I believe to this day, sir, that I did not have an opportunity to tell my side of the story what happened that night. But I say that, I'm not trying to absolve myself. I made mistakes my entire life, sir. I made mistakes throughout my life. I destroyed communities.
All of that, I got you. I understand everything you're saying. I just wanted to know, and you've cleared it up in my mind about exactly, why what you had stated that you had no part in it. So, okay, let me ask you this. You're a 4th felony offender, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you had a gun on you. While you had a gun on you, you're a 4th felony offender. I mean, I know you're in a gang, but I mean, that doesn't absolve you of crimes. And I mean, you had the gun on you. So you had already committed a crime that night when you walked up because you had a gun in your pocket, correct?
Yes, sir. That is correct, sir.
Okay. And I terribly want to commend you on your prison record. If we were looking just at your prison record, it'd be a slam dunk. No doubt. There hadn't been a better prison record given of what you've done, but that's not all we have to look at. We have to look at all the circumstances surrounding the event. So my other question is, you got your Bible study. You were a tier walker, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I want to commend you on that. I know that's a hard job. I see you had 39 disciplinary. All of them were old except for one. What was your contraband in 2020?
That was a piece of a marijuana joint, sir, that they found in a book on a GI day in either my property or the person that slept above me property. But by me being in the bottom bunk, it was considered my property and my domain. So I didn't question it. They gave me the report and I pled guilty and I accepted the responsibility for it, sir.
Okay. You know, looking at your criminal record, criminal history, and I know that's a long time ago when you were gangbanging, but it's not good. I mean, it's not even close to good. You know, you pled guilty to an aggravated assault, possession of drug paraphernalia, possession of marijuana. But then you had a conspiracy to commit first-degree murder. What was that about?
That was about a gang incident that took place, sir, which Mr. Prater is aware of at this time in Shreveport, Louisiana, sir, with another gang. That gang was the Hoover Crips, which was an enemy of the gang that I belonged to, sir. 3-4 nights prior to, that specific gang had killed a person from our gang.
I understand.
Yes, sir.
Gotcha. And then you had the trafficking and illegal in Oklahoma.
Yes, sir.
That was selling drugs in Oklahoma?
Yes, sir.
And how did you escape from Oklahoma?
Well, it wasn't an actual, I didn't break out of anything. I was actually at a work release, sir, and I was on pass. I was already just out in society, and I met a young lady, sir. And I met that young lady, and I let the time elapse for me to return to the facility, and I panicked. I overran the time where I was supposed to return to the facility, and I panicked.
All right. Tell me what class that you took that you liked the most. What was your best class that you take?
Hands down, sir, that would be my graduation from the seminary, because the seminary have changed my life. It taught me organizational skills. It gave me a spiritual foundation, and it taught me how to organize, how to do a lot of the things that I do now. I learned that in the Bible college, and I learned most of all to be selfless. Dr. Robinson, who's the director, used to always tell us, get over yourself. And that still resonates with me today. That's why I'm a servant. That's why I do what I do, to continue down the road of redemption, to redeem myself. So hands down, it would be the Bible college. And one of the hardest things that we do in the Bible college as ministers, some of us, I chose to deliver death messages because somebody had to deliver that death message to me when my mother died, when my father died. So I took on their responsibilities to pay back. So the Bible college, hands down, is one of my greatest achievements that I have the most pride in, sir, because it gave me the foundation that I have now and that I will carry if the board affords me into the communities that desperately need it.
Okay. And I just want to note for the record that we do have a letter from Congressman Higgins, and we also had a letter from Senator Gerald Boudreaux on your behalf, and numerous inmates and others have written very highly of you, so you are respected in the prison community for sure. Let's see, I don't think I have any other questions.
Any other questions?
I do. I wanted to ask you a question. I saw that you had contraband in 2020. Is that correct? And if so, why?
Yes, ma'am.
Marijuana.
The marijuana. I'm sorry, I didn't hear it. Okay. So then the second question, are you still paralyzed? I heard you said that you were paralyzed. Are
No,
you still
ma'am.
paralyzed or have you healed?
No, ma'am, I have healed through the grace of God. I am well and healthy.
Okay. Okay, let me ask you about the security guard that was shot. See that he was shot in the leg.
Yes,
Do you
ma'am.
know anything about his injuries that maybe he had to live with afterward? Has anybody talked to you about that?
No, ma'am. I don't have any knowledge of it, of anything afterwards. No, ma'am.
Well, and you wouldn't have any contact. I mean, that would be against the law. And I don't know either, but I can tell you this, I have dealt with a lot of victims that were shot in the leg, shot in the back, different things like that. They didn't get to go on with life as they knew it. They stayed in pain. They usually had to retire from their job, different things like that. Now, I don't know this security guard, it may have been just went through his muscle and it was no trouble whatsoever. Then again, it could have shattered his leg. I don't know. But then we do know that the man was killed. And I don't know if anybody told you that, but the autopsy is that it entered his hip. just above his, exiting just above his waist on the right side. It lacerated his aorta, causing him to bleed to death. And, I don't know if somebody can tell me, I thought I read that he was 22 years old. Is that correct? He was just a young man. And I know he and his wife certainly clearly seems like didn't have a happy marriage. And then you have a child that was having to watch all that. And you said that she intervened. You had the gun. And then I read in the report that you shot up in the air. Did you shoot up in the air or did you shoot into the crowd?
No, ma'am, I did not shoot in the air. I ducked when the first 2 to 3 shots were fired, I ducked down to avoid
Okay.
the shots myself. And then when I was raising up, the 2 security officers began to fire at me because I was the one that had the physical altercation with Mr. Bryant. And at that time, I began to fire 2 to 3 shots myself towards the officer. And I was already running away in a sense where I was shooting back, and then that's when I was hitting my back as well. Yes, ma'am.
Right, I thought you were sitting you back. But you know what they have in here that the security wasn't able to, they weren't armed at the beginning of all of this. I mean, they weren't able to get to their guns. So all of this happened later. So you pulled your gun first?
No,
Because
ma'am. Robert Phillips, excuse me. Robert Phillips was the first person to pull his gun and fire from the crowd behind us.
Oh, and he was your friend.
Yes, he was a former gang member in the same gang that I belong to, ma'am.
So he started it and then it all just went bad, huh?
The shooting aspect of it was started by him, but me and Mr. Bryant has a physical altercation prior to this.
Well, the family's not speaking or anything today, but there's strong opposition, you know, with the family. I know about the DA and the sheriff. I know you know about that. And listen, and what you're doing is fabulous for prison ministries. Nobody can say anything wrong about that. But you know, sometimes your testimony comes out of pain. And sometimes it's the pain you cause others that you feel that you have to do something about it. So I don't know, this may be your calling in life and it may lead to other things and eventually to where you want to be. But I want to thank you for the things that you have done, but there was a lot of consequences for that day. So I'm finished.
All right,
I got a question.
Mr. Tibbs.
You say you can walk, Mr.
Yes,
You
sir.
can. Okay, you've been in the Louisiana State Prison for how long?
I've been incarcerated for 31 years.
Where
Yes.
where were you? Where all were you incarcerated?
Oh, all of my time spent here, sir, in Louisiana State Prison.
Have you ever attended Kairos Ministry?
Yes, I have several, some decades ago, though. I attended one of their retreats.
You did?
Oh, yeah, I think I
Did
did.
you? What did you get out of those?
The thing that I got most, if I remember correctly, was the conversations. When you sit and you separate tables, like 5, 6 people at each table, and you just the conversations. Really nothing biblical, but just the life conversations that we had with those particular people.
Yeah, I don't know if you remember. One of the conversations that they had is the choices we make are the choices we have to live with. Do you remember that?
I think I do, sir.
Choices we make are the ones we have to live with. Okay.
All right, I don't see any other questions.
Move to an executive session.
We have a motion by Mr. Freeman for executive session.
A second.
We have a second by Mr. Tillis. Can you call the roll?
Milazzo,
Yes.
Freeman,
Yes.
Frame,
Yes.
Tillis,
Yes.
Davis.
Yes.
All right, we'll be in executive session, Mr. Bolt, for a few moments to discuss confidential matters. All right, Mr. Freeman.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion that we go back into regular business.
A second.
Motion is second, to return to regular session without objection. We're back in regular session. It's 11:33. Mr. Bolt, we are prepared to vote. Mr. Freeman will be voting first.
Bolt, I'm gonna tell you, on my paper, I had a big deny. Then you get here today and you talk and you're doing some great great things. And some things that I think this state needs. So I'm gonna go out on a limb for you. I'm gonna tell you right now, and I'm gonna vote to grant. Commute to 99 years with immediate parole eligibility.
Mr. Tillis?
I concur with Mr. Freeman. I commend you on the services. The staff there at Louisiana State Prison, what they've done. And I hope you continue.
Mrs. Stapleton?
Sir, I think that you have found your calling in life. And sometimes, like I say, God puts us in bad situations to find a calling. And you can continue that calling inside or out. I am not going to vote to grant you today, but I tell you what, I'm impressed by you. And I'm proud for the people that's all around you that love you and believe in you. And I do too. And so wherever this leads, I wish you the best, but today I cannot vote for your computation.
Mr. Prater?
In 1994, I was the police chief up there, I believe. And Illinois Street Apartments was a wild, wild, wild west show at that time. And everybody had guns. And I think because of the work that you've done there and everything else, that I think you deserve a chance. My vote is to concur with Mr. Freeman.
Mr. Boult, I firmly believe that had you not landed in prison, you'd be dead. I do recognize what Warden Benoit has said. You're a leader among your peers, the strong support you've got from the congressman and others. My vote today also is to vote that your sentence be commuted to 99 years with immediate parole eligibility. So you've received 4 favorable votes. That's the recommendation we're going to make on your behalf to the governor. Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, and they are going to recommend to the governor to commute, and it's still a long journey from here. It's frankly for me, I'm no insider. I'm not living and breathing it, but just what I see coming out of the governor's speeches and whatnot, it's going to be hard for me to see the governor commuting the sentence. I mean, the governor's going to get this packet on his desk. He's going to see a non-unanimous vote, which does send a message. And then he's going to have to decide to sign it. And there's going to be press about that. And whether or not a tough on crime governor is going to want to throw a wrench in his mission statement, I don't see it happening. Maybe he'll do it at the end of his term if he doesn't get reelected, if things are a little bit different. I don't see it happening anytime soon. We have seen commutations get recommended to the governor, and 5 years later, we're finally seeing those parole hearings. And we have heard stories of folks getting recommended to the governor, and then 15, 20 years later, still waiting for a sign because it sat on the governor's desk, and for whatever reason, the governor didn't sign it. And then it expires, and the new governor comes in, and they start all over. But a few things, I guess, on this. And we don't have an appeal to go over, which is quite interesting. We think that we'd expect one, being that he's been appealing this for all those years. There are news articles where he had spoken about the injustice, so to speak, of being found guilty by a non-unanimous jury, a 10 to 12 jury. And this is something that we've seen in Louisiana many times. Now, Louisiana recently changed its law. Now you do need a unanimous jury. As a matter of fact, there are only 2 states in America that allowed a non-unanimous jury up until a few years ago. And that was Louisiana, of course, and Oregon. And up until I think 2020 or 2019 was that now overturned. And of course, you now need unanimous juries, but anybody convicted under a non-unanimous jury, they didn't get a second chance. So a lot of what he's filing with, and a lot of what you hear the grievances is about that, and about it being unconstitutional, and about it being a Jim Crow era law. So there's a lot packed in there. Now, okay, a few things again. Before I forget, I love what the sheriff said. I love the sheriff. I love his accent. He's like a classic Louisiana sheriff, right out of scripting. You can fill the part in a Hollywood screenplay. And he's not like other sheriffs where it's like, no, you did the crime, you do the time. He's like, yeah, it was a Wild West. Everyone had guns, and I like what you did, and I'll let you out. I'll recommend to the governor, which says a lot, and that's why I respect the sheriff so much. We see him take that approach on many crimes that we cover. I don't know. I feel like he's fair. He doesn't get in his head. But what confuses me, and again, like I said, we don't have appeals about this entire thing, and I've watched this several times now, is even if what he's saying is true, which I think trying to say that it wasn't his gun or his bullet that killed someone, and again, without the appeals and the details and whatnot, but it still wouldn't make a difference. He's there involved in the crime. They don't care. The law doesn't care. We have covered commutation hearings of people who served as a lookout for a robbery gone wrong with 9 other participants in this robbery. We've seen people serve as a lookout, never go inside the house and get life sentences. We have seen people who were just involved in the smallest way get life sentences. So I don't really even understand what he's saying by, well, I was there, but someone else fired the shots. I shot in the air. None of that's relevant anyways. So I don't get it. That part is really over my head. Like it wouldn't make a difference, right? Tell me I'm wrong, but by word of the law, it wouldn't make a difference. I don't know why no one ever, the only thing that he has leg that he's trying to stand on, which he can't stand on it, is saying that he was found guilty by attempted to jury, but no one has won that appeal, and many people have tried it. So, everybody who was convicted under it is trying it, and it's not getting overturned. They're not reversing every single guilty plea, which are many. I forget how many, but enough. But okay, so outside of that, again, I'm happy that he was granted. He clearly, you gotta respect the man. He's been in prison for so long, and he's done great. He's been lobbying for he's done everything that he needs to do. 30 years in prison, and he took accountability for his gang involvement. He took accountability for all of that. And I frankly, I believe his story. I believe whatever it is that he's saying. I don't think I have a reason not to believe him, but it wouldn't change that he wouldn't have a life sentence, right? So that part I just don't get. But I love the ADA. She came up there and laid down facts. Hey, we don't even know if he's going to appeal this last writ decision. Which I assume he's not going to now to do that. And I assume that he was smart enough to wait as well. He had up until April. At the time of this recording, it's not April yet, but I doubt he'll appeal the decision. There's no reason for him to take something to the Supreme Court and have a recommendation on the governor's desk. That would just be called shooting yourself in the foot. But I have a feeling that the recommendation might make some news. It probably would. It could be Lady Holly, when she did this research, was the day of or the day before. So let me just show you Lady Holly's research and Lady Holly's fact of the day. So Lady Holly has been dropping facts of the day, which are a lot of fun to read. So let's go to this one. Fun fact: Mark Chopper Reed is a psychopath from Australia who did only kill pedos and narcotics dealers, so they say. Anyways, he was locked up in H Block in prison, and there was a hit out on him. He knew he was going to get killed in H Block, so he chopped his own ears off in order to get out. Worked too. Chopping his ears off saved his life. He ended up getting out of prison and moving to Tasmania. He died later of cancer, a free man. That is a cool random fact. And if he truly did only kill pedos and narcotics, so I guess he's kind of like, what's his name? What's that actor's name that killed? What is that? I'm forgetting that movie, the Netflix movie. What? Wow, I'm like Googling it and nothing's coming up. Dexter. It didn't even come up, but Dexter. I never watched Dexter. To me, too much blood. I don't like that. Too much blood, too much gore. Even though it's like bad guys getting killed, it's just not my thing. But I know a lot of people really like it. I got sidetracked. I got a little. Oh right, let's just put in his name in Google to see if it has made the news. That because that could be another way that they can pressure the governor into wanting to sign it. The governor might view it as an approach of, see, I'm fair. It's not all about this. He got recommended. Now I will grant him. This is what rehabilitation looks like. This is the kind of, that we want to. And there's not strong victim opposition. We haven't seen victims show up. So that, if there was, he for sure wouldn't grant. But this is the kind of case that the governor could grant, I think, and play both sides. No, I don't see it in the news. The last article is February 7, 2025, which Holly does have in there, but I don't see, there's no press releases about them recommending about the board recommending that he commute, and maybe they know what they're doing by not doing that. But we'll keep you posted. If he does show up, if the governor does recommend within a short future, he will be immediately eligible for parole, which means we will see him come back here again, and there will be a parole hearing. And if so, I'll let you know, and it will be played in the return of playlist. That's a playlist where we see inmates come back for first, second time, and sometimes third, sometimes fourth time. So check out that playlist if you want to see hearings. We have covered hearings where there's commuted in 2020 and then they get parole in 2025. It's a 5-year gap. You want to see those, check out that playlist. But for now, I'll let you go.
In 1994, I was the police chief up there, I believe. And Illinois Street Apartments was a wild, wild, wild west show at that time. And everybody had guns. And I think because of the work that you've done there and everything else, that I think you deserve a chance.